This week, I want to show you how to set up Ableton Live to work with Karaoke-Version backing tracks, and if you stay tuned until the end, I'll give you a link to pick up the Ableton template for yourself. Let's go. What's up, everybody? My name is Adam. Welcome to the channel. I'm here to show you how to make good money playing music. If that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss anything. So the past few weeks have been crazy. Members Only played one of the best gigs we've ever done last weekend. It was one of the greatest nights of my life. I've also had the chance to do some coaching sessions with you guys, and one thing that keeps coming up over and over again is backing tracks. So most cover bands are sourcing their backing tracks from one particular vendor, which is Karaoke-Version.com. And for the life of me, I searched all over YouTube for a tutorial on how to make those files work in Ableton Live, and as far as I can tell, there aren't any. So I decided to build a template in Ableton to show you guys how we use those files in our project. This is by no means the definitive, tricked out setup that uses all of the bells and whistles that Ableton Live has. This is a starting point for your band to get accustomed to this particular workflow and not overwhelm you with a bunch of details and settings. For this video, I will be using Ableton Live 11, but this particular workflow will also work in version 10. I'm also going to be using Ableset, which is an app for live playback that integrates with Ableton Live. Also, we're going to be doing this in arrangement view and not session view. Most of the tutorials I've seen utilize session view, but for the kind of thing that my cover band does, session view just doesn't cut it. Arrangement view allows you to quickly edit audio, adjust tempos, and do things like overlap tracks when you're trying to do things like mashups and that kind of thing. So the first thing you're going to want to do when you open up Ableton is to go into Preferences, go down to the Record Warp Launch tab, and uncheck Auto Warp Long Samples. This particular setting can make setting up tracks much more difficult, so we're going to use Warp, but we're going to do it manually later on in the process. All right, let's take a look at the layout here. I have locators at the beginning of each of my songs up top. I also have a blank audio clip here called a tempo track. Now, this is a trick that I picked up from Will Doggett. This allows you to set up the tempo for each of your songs individually and can be used as a master for things like click tracks and effects. The tracks we're using from Karaoke-Version, though, do have an audio click track, so this is primarily for warping purposes in this demo. On the right side here, I have group tracks that are already set up for the instrumentation that we use. In Ableton, a group track is basically like a folder that you can then use to nest other tracks inside of. It allows you to shrink and expand those so that you can quickly navigate through them and organize things a bit easier. You can see here I have one for clicks, cues, percussions, keys, synth, that kind of thing. And if you expand these, you can see that I have different categories for each of them: piano, electric piano, organ, synth, and so on. I'm not going to talk much about routing in this because there's so many different options and it could just get super overwhelming. If that's something that you'd like me to cover, leave a comment and maybe I'll do a video just about that. Okay, that pretty much covers the Ableton components. Let's talk about the tracks themselves. As I said earlier, Karaoke-Version is the most popular vendor of backing tracks for cover bands. They have a really extensive catalog of tunes and you can buy customizable backing tracks for $3 each. The way you'll need to download these is to purchase the song and then go into the Customize section. Here you can adjust the key if you need to, and then you're going to solo the first track, which in this case is the click. I checked the box that includes accounting because it's going to make it easier to line the tracks up once we put them into Ableton. Once that one finishes downloading, you're going to repeat that process for all of the other instrumentation you want to use. It's a little bit tedious, but it's the best way to get exactly what you're looking for. Once you have all the files downloaded, you can then go into Ableton and start putting them into those group tracks we set up. So the first thing you're going to want to do is to click on the tempo track, enter your BPM, and make sure that the warp is set to lead or master depending on which version you're using. Next thing we're going to do is add the click. So we'll go and open the group track here. Make sure that you line it up with the grid as best you can. After you put a track into the session, go ahead and select it, enable warp, and set it to follow. It should import the tempo information from the track that we already set up. Now repeat those steps for all of the other tracks. Once they've been imported, go ahead and do a spot check to make sure all the tracks line up. Then you're going to want to go in and disable the count-ins for all of the tracks except the click. And you do that by highlighting that section of the audio and then pressing the 0 key to deactivate that section. And we'll go ahead and minimize these other tracks. Once everything is in place, you can go in and add audio cues for your musicians. This can help your players know what section of the song is coming up, count-ins, that kind of thing. So in our case, I've got some cues right here, And we're gonna do just the main count in for the song. Just drag them in. And instead of doing a 4, I'm going to use one of my section cues. I have one that says full band so that everybody knows that they need to come in right here. It sounds a little something like this.
1, 2, 3, full band.
Okay, so we've built the songs. How do we navigate all of this and trigger playback? In my band's case, we're using Ableset, which allows you to navigate, organize, and trigger Ableton Live playback using their super clean interface. Ableset uses the locators I mentioned earlier to navigate through your Ableton Live session, so you're gonna need to have one of those at the beginning of every song. Ableset uses the information in those locators to navigate from song to song, but it also can do a couple of other things that would normally require IAC functions or MIDI commands. A great example of this is if you put a period at the beginning of your song title in the locator, Ableset will stop playback automatically. So let me put a period here. This is Let's Dance. You can also add brackets and put a color in there, which will show up in Ableset's interface. Kind of makes things easier to see as you're navigating through your set. Then you open Ableset in the browser of any device. In our case, we use an iPad, and you have this really clean, easy to use interface to navigate through your set list. And then you just click on the song title to trigger playback.
1, 2, 3, full band.
Just as a reminder, we do have a discount code with Ableset, so if you go to their site and use the code CBC at checkout, you'll save 10% off your purchase. On that note, I am going to put this Ableton template on our website for $10 if you don't feel like setting one up yourself. The link for that is going to be in the description. As always, if you have any questions about anything covered in the video, leave a comment or shoot me an email. That's going to do it for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We post new videos every single Friday. Also, consider supporting us on Patreon. That $5 tier gets you access to our private Slack channel, which is full of musicians just like you trying to make good money playing music. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you next time.